I believe that we're not forsaken. I had said that before. We are very loved. Everything's divinely ordered, even in the chaos of it all. Many of us pre-birth planned challenges in order to assist others. We are held in love as we are love.
Welcome to Harmonic Alignment, a podcast that explores the new frontier of energy medicine, bridging the gap between Western medicine and quantum physics, giving you easy and practical solutions. Guided by me, Dr. Larissa Sharipova, and me, Priscilla Koblenz. Join us on a journey discovering your harmonic alignment. On today's episode of Harmonic Alignment, White Light Healing, the transformative power of psychic gifts with Joanie Eisinger. I am so excited to bring this conversation with Joanie to you. She is one of the most interesting and beautiful souls that I have ever gotten the opportunity to connect with. If you have ever wondered about psychic readings, past lives, animal communication, then this is the episode for you. Joanie, it is such an honor to be here with you today. Can you start by telling us the story of Joanie and how you got here and the gifts that came to you?
Sure. Well, first, I want to thank you, Priscilla, for having me and for inviting me for an interview. It's an honor. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and I was conventionally trained as a social worker. I received my master's, and then I also received a postgraduate certificate in Gestalt therapy. I never believed that anything that was called psychic, healer, medium, animal communication, crystals and the like, any of this existed. I thought it was bunk. I was judgy back then, religious by birth. So we don't believe in ghosts, and angels were hardly spoken of, no reincarnation or past lives. And I only relied on the observable and the reportable. So my brain was my friend, and science was also an ally. So around 2004, I was homebound. I could take no medicine. I couldn't open up windows or doors. I was allergic to the outside air, and done. So the conventional scientific community thought that I was nuts, but I knew that I hadn't lost it. I was a psychiatric social worker in New York City, and I knew that I was sane and grounded, and that my childhood lent itself to that of the buildup of chemical sensitivities and allergies. My life took an interesting divine turn when an energy medicine practitioner came on my path, and he started doing healing. And around that time, when he was in person and remote treating me, he asked me whether I had heard of the spiritual gurus of Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay. I wouldn't go there then, but it was time. He recommended a book, and I started reading books that were of the light. He was healing me, and I thought, well, if this person dies, the next day I could be dead, because I don't know how to heal myself. I don't know how to resuscitate myself from the acute reactions that I would have. So I had read enough regarding past lives, angels, energy healing, energy psychology, and the like. And I thought, well, I'll try this. I'm going to see what comes through. My son had reactive airways, which is like low-level asthma. And I thought, I'm going to try something. And I put my hands on either side of his chest, not touching, but just enough away. So maybe if something came through, I would feel the energy come out of my palms, which are minor chakras. I put sacred space around myself. I put white light protection around myself. I called upon the highest of. I said, please heal this child of God, which wasn't part of my religious upbringing. I saw white light from my closed eyes in my mind's eye, and the love came out of my palms, and he would stop coughing. He validated it by saying he was around 3, 4, or 5. And I asked, did you feel that? Yeah, Mom. And then he would ask for hands-on healing. And then I thought, well, I'm going to try remote. So I stuck my hand out from underneath the pillow, the sleep-deprived mom that doesn't want to go to the sick kid, because let's try this, it might be easier. I put out the intention that the love would come out of my palm through that other realm to my son, and he stopped coughing. And that's when I was doing then in-person and remote healing. People started saying that they had lost departed ones and pets. I put my Joanie aside and I started doing light and deep trance channeling. I became able to jump into other lifetimes in a single bound. I was identifying the etiology of folks' blocks. I became medical intuitive. I could see into bodies. I was doing clearings of auras and chakras. I was doing exorcisms. I was doing clearings of spaces in person and remote. I was identifying folks' divine purposes, and I began chatting with animals and doing healings with animals, and the list went on.
That's incredible, Joanie. Did you have a moment where you're like, I can't believe this is happening?
Yes. And what was interesting is that when it was happening, it felt good. It felt right. Yet it was 180 degrees different from my religious and professional training. So I outed myself to my rabbi, and I was so naive. I thought he would be so happy for me, and he was not. And I left religion about a month afterwards, after the very disturbing reaction I received. I'd been a secret when I would attend synagogue. I now embrace unity consciousness, that we're all one. I began doing automatic writing. I started scribing. I call them David's Guidance. And I published a book called David's Guidance, a Book of Light, highly metaphorical. My guide that called himself David outs himself as Yeshua or Jesus. So there were many, many mind blows that occurred. And since then, I've been channeling elementals, incarnated angels, star beings, departed ones. I was on the of Drew University doing live call-in with the students in their radio station. I've done restaurant galleries, etc. We call folks like me, I'm not the only one, being fast-tracked. So this is where we aren't necessarily building up the repertoire of divine gifts as the veil thins. It's going from 0 to 100. So that's Joanie in a nutshell.
What a powerful and beautiful journey you've been on, Joanie. Do you feel that you are fulfilling a life purpose? Why do you think this happened for you?
I believe that I pre-birth planned this, that before I incarnated here in this lifetime, on this reality plane, I set it up where I was going to have the social work training, the Gestalt therapy training, and that I would have it lend to the healing, channeling, and guidance that I do. So when folks come to me for sessions, nothing surprises me. I've done a lot of personal work. There's not the bias and the prejudices. I believe that my filter is quite clear because I want that for my clients, as I did when I was a therapist. I believe that, I'll speak for myself, I believe it is my responsibility to work through my issues and try to be the highest version of myself that I could be in order to bring in the purest channel for others. Why am I here? I believe I'm part of the awakening, that I am an old soul. I come in with a treasure trove of gifts and wisdom. I say that humbly. It's not about me. And that I'm here at this auspicious time in Earth's reality history to assist with turning folks' light bulbs on if they so wish.
I love that. If someone wants to work with you, what are some of the things that you wish a client understood coming in to work with you?
Well, the first thing I would say is that this is for entertainment purposes only. Please see your medical professional, your mental health professional, legal advisor, and financial advisor. I do not aim to cure. So that's a disclaimer on my website. And folks who see me, I have them sign a waiver because I must. It is the unfortunate part of the third dimensionality. Yet as we move into 5D plus, that waiver will shred in the ethers. People come in with a variety of issues. A lot of people are concerned about their departed ones. Are they okay? They've heard that there's more than just this reality, and they want to have me be the bridge and supply information so their loved one, it could be a human or a pet, be okay, but what are they doing? I'm able to offer more regarding why that soul was in their life, and maybe whether there was karma, how they assisted them and how they assisted them, and that there's a two-way street here. And I do get quite a bit of information. People do try and test me, like what color did I bury them in? That spirit does not go for. We don't get the testing of the medium. I am here to provide information that's healing, educational, and supportive. So mediumship is one piece. Other people come regarding animals, their pets. It could even be a horse, or it could even be about the bird that visits them often that isn't domesticated. And I'm able to talk to animals and get information. A lot of people come with rescue stories and concerns. I can identify a person's divine purpose, why they're here in this lifetime. An aspect of that, I'm also able to identify the way they roll, what their true essence is, who they are. Now, spirit doesn't tell them who they are. They give descriptions. If they say, you are this and you are that, it sounds more like a dictate. I'm not here to spoon feed. I'm not trying to establish dependency and guruship. There's a lending, so the soul kind of gets that veil thinner. It jiggles their awareness, and then the person makes these connections based on what they're hearing through me. Many people ask questions. So they ask questions about relationship, finance and prosperity. They ask about health. They ask about career, where to live. They ask about their children, pregnancy issues, infertility, addiction. I never state that I create miracles, yet things have happened. Why did they happen? I don't know. I think it's a recipe of being done with their present stuckness, believing in the modality, believing in the deliverer of the modality, and working through any blocks, meaning karma.
One of the things when someone asks me about this and they're new to the work that you're doing, I say, well, how does it feel when you work with someone? Do you feel really good? Do you feel joy when you have that experience and they share that information with you? And if it makes you smile and it feels good, then isn't that healing? And then that's, to me, an indicator for this is the right path or the right next step for you.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that with those folks, that where you're talking about healing and mediumship and readings. We all are hardwired the same way. So there's no difference between you, me, the folks you're talking about, and folks I'm talking about. We're all hardwired the same way, and we all have divine senses. So that feeling, the clairsentience is what you're talking about, divine feeling. Claircognizance, divine knowing, you put that together. Some people have clairvoyance and they're seeing how that session might be or thereafter. Whatever the case, our divine senses are our guide. So we use our brain for analysis and weighing cost benefit, right? Ratios. And then we go to our heart. And then the divine senses come up. And yes, you're assisting people in tapping into when you hear their name, when you see a picture of them, when you read the bio, when you listen to interviews and radio shows, when you talk to them on the phone, how do you feel? I always say to folks, if you get the heebie-jeebs, that's the flag, done. So you're right on.
I love that. For the bigger question of why are we here, I'm imagining that you have a really wonderful answer to that question. So what do you have to say about why we incarnate, and then, what is occurring right now on this 3D earth plane?
$1 million question that I've been asking for a long time. I don't hang my head on what I believe today, but have a strong feeling about it. I believe that this reality is one of many. I believe it was set up as a love model to be an example for creation, for other realms, civilizations to admire and learn from. Yet I believe it was hijacked, kind of like a virus in a video game. And that at this time, there is a shift It's been prophesied as end times, and I'm not saying that religiously. It's just that's something that's very pointed and people refer to it a lot. It's the reveal, the big Scooby-Doo reveal of darkness that has run the show for a very long time. Yet also it's superimposed with what I would call a new earth timeline. I believe there are two timelines that are jockeying right next to each other, and that all souls have the opportunity to wake up to what has gone on for a very long time. It's not for the light of heart, and that everyone has free will choice regarding where they would like to reside. And I believe there might be a choice point moment with a separation where there is one timeline that goes into a devolve, which is what we are seeing with our eyes. Yet there is another reality that is the feel good that separates by physical separation, not death. And I believe it would be in a blink where there would be this divergence. And that other timeline is that new earth where miracles would occur. There would be a cleanup of this physical reality. The veils would thin for us all. We would all come back into our divine gifts. Bartering would become the norm. Reality would be cleaned up. Anything that was poisoned with toxins would be cleaned. We might encounter again our galactic brothers and sisters.
I love what you just said, Joanie. I love that you're painting this beautiful picture of a new earth. You mentioned how we might come into our gifts. Are there things we can do now to elevate ourselves into the new earth or to start to tap into our gifts and our divinity?
I believe that if folks would like to, if they are able to, because I do believe there are folks that are stuck. They've made vows, never's written scripts, they have negative entities blocking them, or they have made the free will choice to stop and not go any further. So those folks might have already made that decision. They are not moving to a higher spiritual development plane. So for the ones that are wishing that, they would need to work on their fears, work on addictions, pray, work on being present-centered, remaining in the now moment, doing a lot of forgiveness work, eliminating unforgiveness to self and other.
I love what you said about forgiveness work because I think it's so important. Can you give us a little insight on how you view forgiveness?
Well, I believe that a lot of people's blocks are karmic. I believe that there is a precipitating event that occurred in usually one, but it could be a bunch of lifetimes where a person was working on a theme for soul growth opportunity or spiritual development, but they get tripped up by blaming self and other. So if a person finds that they have unforgiveness here, they simply state, across time and space, forwards and backwards across all generations, the unforgiveness I have regarding, and then you fill in the blank, regarding this person that just cut me off and now I'm full of rage, and any other karma in relation to that, anywhere. I forgive myself. I forgive everyone and everything. And this is the way you strip layers of unforgiveness. You sip water between then when you do it and when you go to sleep, because it helps flush negative energies through the physical body, and it creates openness. And you might need to do that more than once if there's a lot of karma, a lot of unforgiveness regarding that theme. The part that I say about forgiveness work is that it's a win. Many people don't want to forgive self and or other because they feel there's a defeat involved. You're hooking yourself into either yourself with something lower and or other, and you're lowering yourself, lowering your vibration, and it keeps you hooked into something that's a bygone. That's a number one. And number two, I believe that if you do not do the forgiveness work, you will have to have a do-over in another lifetime with them.
Wow. Okay, do your forgiveness work, people. Don't come back and keep repeating the same pattern.
Right on.
When you talked about frequency, how do you view people's frequency?
I believe that we're all creator. I believe that that is love, which is the highest frequency, and that I believe it blew itself up into gazillions of ever expanding infinite parts to know itself better. All of us are God sparks with the ultimate goal of returning home. That would be called ascension, that spiritual climb back home. And that there are souls that have gotten lost in the mix and that they've moved further and further away from knowing they are light. So they appear as dark, yet they are not dark. They are God sparks that have turned their back on Creator, on us, on the highest. And that in this reality, adversity, obstacles are opportunities. They appear frequentially as lower vibrations, yet we know that by experiencing them, if we accept the challenge and choose to swim rather than sink, we will raise our vibration, which is frequency. We are all part of the oneness. We are all connected as one, as the collective consciousness. And that if I do something to hurt myself, I'm also hurting you. And if I do something to hurt you, I'm also hurting myself. And it's a ripple effect that is in fact felt throughout all that is seen and unseen, which is part of Creator. That is my take on frequency and vibration.
Oh, Joanie, I love that. I think that's so beautiful because then it shows that we all have access to raise our frequency through our thoughts and our actions. And I recently heard that people and situations will come into our lives to show us where we're not free. And I think of that as this transformational opportunity where, okay, where is the thing that I keep coming up against that is these low vibrational of anger, fear, shame, guilt? Can we love ourselves enough to free ourselves from that situation, to heal it? But I think that's the struggle, is that we may on a conscious level in our thinking brain know, okay, I need to forgive, or I need to heal, I need to love myself. But then it's very difficult to have unconditional love for ourselves. We could almost love someone else more than we can love ourselves unconditionally. How does the soul find unconditional love for themselves?
That's a very good question. I believe there's a continuum of self-loathing to self-aggrandizement. And I believe it has to do with how despairing and self-loathing a person is. If a person is in extreme despair and self-loathing, I believe they need therapy. I'm a great proponent of going for therapy. I was in it for over 7 years in my 20s. Boy, did that assist me greatly. That's third dimension. We are in a human body. We're on a physical plane, having that experience, and that there's healing that needs to be done here. So that is for every soul to make that conscious decision, and maybe pass it by a trusted friend or a doctor or someone. What do you think? Do you think I need therapy? Then I would suggest finding someone that by word of mouth. I'm also a great proponent of word of mouth recommendations for therapists. So for those who are working on themselves outside of therapy, if they are not in straits, I believe that a lot of messages that were given to us are challenges. They are illusions, and many of us bought into those lies because we just did. We were kids, and you just believe this stuff because you need the security, the food, clothing, shelter from those that are caretaking us. And this could also involve teachers, authority figures, looking up to esteemed folks. Whatever the case, when that soul, you, are ready to challenge the lies, challenge the illusions that you took in whole, you move to the next Tetris level. It has to do with having your big boy boxers, big girl panties on, and saying, I'm curious, I want to challenge this. Is it comfortable? No. I mean, if you're holding on to something and you're doing self-hating, there's something you're going to be facing that's going to need to be triggered and unchinked in order to move on. When a person is ready, then they do it. And that you can't force another person to move on. You can't force yourself. When people wake up and are ready to eliminate what doesn't serve them, they go for it, and then the benefits outweigh the discomfort.
That was brilliantly said. Get your big girl pants on. You brought up something that always strikes a chord with me because you said we can't change other people, right? And I think that one of the huge struggles that so many people have is that a family member or a loved one or a partner, when to keep them in your life still and continue to evolve, and when to make the decision that actually being with this relationship is actually not serving my highest good and it's continuing to hurt me. How do you know when it's your life lesson, then you need to work through it and it's on you? And how do you know when you shouldn't continue that choice of that relationship because it's never going to be unfold for your highest good?
It's a very common Earth School drama. So many people are empaths. People are suffering from codependence. People are compensating for what they didn't receive. Therefore, they're giving and giving to other, hoping that it will make them feel good and it will fill the hole of what they did not receive. That folks don't know that by putting the oxygen mask on themselves first is the way to go. And that requires deep dives. Some people read books on codependence. They go to Codependence Anonymous. They go for therapy. They try out different ways of doing things. Oftentimes people experience great pains emotionally, sometimes physically, financially, sexually, spiritually, by remaining in relationships that are not for their highest good. And there are gazillions of reasons why a person would justify remaining. Many times it's financial. People hook into someone and they are afraid that they will be in the poorhouse or homeless. Some people have created a lifestyle that's such high maintenance that they can't imagine minimizing. And other people, again, have issues regarding connection, emotions, believing in self, that they can be solo. It's very common.
I love that you said the Earth School examples of what we're here to transform. Someone once said, this is the planet of transformation. You would have incarnated someplace else if you weren't willing to do the work. But yet some of us really struggle with wanting to do the work or even knowing how to do the work.
Right. And that there are some other things that people aren't aware of. When the gifts came in, I embraced the concept of other lifetimes. And that it's usually, if a person is stuck and they're finding themselves in that gerbil wheel, probably there's something that stucks them. That could also include a vow, a never, and a script, and also negative energies that are steering them away from success. So that improving self is possible. And if a person finds themselves at that juncture where I'm doing everything that I can, but it's still not working, sometimes they might need to see a spiritualist to go in to see where there might be another area that needs to be unstuck. And then the person can have the luge forward if that soul is ready and willing to give up unforgiveness and get rid of vows, get rid of nevers, and get rid of scripts.
Love that. Joanie, you mentioned Christ White Light. Can you explain how you actually feel like you're connecting this information and bringing it forth for people?
Sure. When I first started channeling and doing healing, each soul that was of the highest of Christ light, meaning the enlightened ones, would come in one at a time. They had a different energy feel through me. I would see in my mind's eye with clairvoyance basically what they looked like. I had claircognizance, and I would receive the knowing and the information regarding who they were. And I would also do some type of hand movement. They each had their own thing. They were showing themselves one at a time. And then with this fast tracking, it became a one voice, a collective. I would channel councils from different star systems. I would receive a family unit, a nuclear family, generational, whatever the case. So it was a gradual introduction or initiation, training.
Were you ever afraid, or was it always felt like love?
Good question. So when it first started happening, I didn't know about protection so much, and I didn't know about calling upon the highest to come through me. And after a bunch of psychic attacks and attachments and such, I learned and learned. I had mentors. And I just put out that 24/7, 365 supplication. We're going to be doing our sacred space. We're going to be doing our white light protection. And we're only calling upon the highest of Christ's light. So to me, that ensures. Now, do I ever get hitchhikers? Yeah. My frequency is known, I believe. And that when I'm battling with some of the top dogs in the dark, when I'm doing clearings and such, I can get bits. And then I try first to do the clearing. And if not, I've got a friend or two that can splice and dice.
Should the average person think about coating themselves in Christ white light before they leave the house? Or do they like put the Christ white light bubble on or coat their cars or driving down the road? Okay, Christ white light, protect me. How would you recommend the average person just making sure that they're divinely protected?
Great question, Priscilla. Again, I think it has to do with how much a person is connected with things and ritual. To a person that uses intention and is a set it and forget it without tools. I started off in my earlier years with things and ritual, and I moved to keeping it simple. That's just for me. Other people like more of the earthly ways and traditions. I learned so many ways and traditions. There were so many tools available. It got to be too much. I would have had to have a pickup truck with that many crystals at my convenience on a daily basis. So I'm like, no, I can't anymore. So if a person wants to do the set it and forget it, they put out that supplication to the highest of Christ's light, meaning the enlightened ones, the highest of the guides. I have sacred space around myself. I have white light protection. Sacred space, I believe, is like that bubble of sanctuary. White light protection, to me, it's like a bounce off bubble or shaft, beacon, however you want to look at it. It's love. It is creation in its highest form. And I can't imagine how that couldn't help. So sacred space, white light protection, I'm receiving only from my highest version of myself and the highest of Christ light guides. And then you set it and forget it. 24/7, 365. And someone once asked me what that is. 24/7 is around the clock and 365 is every day of the year.
I love that.
Some people like ritual. If you like sage, if you like gongs, if you like bells, you do whatever works. Some people have budgets, and that's why I love intention. I believe you don't have to buy it. But if a person doesn't have access and or they can't afford it, it's okay.
I love what you just said that. You know, one of your other gifts that I know about is that you are a beautiful singer. And I think that ties into vibration and frequency. What do you think music does? And do you have some favorite music that you listen to?
I've been singing since I'm 8. And I sang at a talent show in elementary school, Dona Dona. And I took some voice lessons and I've sung at some weddings. And then I started receiving lyrics to songs around 2014. And I made some scratch demos. You could find me on SoundCloud. And it wasn't until around then that I had an aha that my last name is Eisinger. It took me that long. We're also very cheeky souls. Before we come in to an incarnation, we do choose our names. And I thought that would be pretty funny if I didn't figure that out before I passed. So I figured it out before I passed, which I think was the bucket check mark. Music is a frequency. Music, I believe, elevates. I believe that there is a lower vibration. Again, as you say, how does it make me feel? There is music that can open up people to lower vibration, to psychic attack. There is music that can help open up chakras and release what doesn't serve, clear auras, repair, move people into ahas, motivate, inspire. I was very into punk. At one point, I was listening to Suicidal Tendencies. That was a group. If you had known me then, I wore an extension cord as a belt in high school. It was fun and I loved it. And now I look at it and I go, I can't, cacophony. What do I listen to? I listen to jazz and I listen to Motown. Oldies. Rock was a very big thing for me. I'm just having some difficulty now with lyrics of all kinds as I'm doing a lot of investigating regarding code and metaphor and what's going on behind the scenes regarding lyrics. So that's just been my thing.
I have to ask, because I feel the same. I am having trouble accessing great music today. I'm finding myself listening to older music or classical music or jazz. Do you see in the future a renaissance of great music coming back, of great artistry and mastery in music?
I believe that it won't just be music, it will also be every facet of what we experience now will be topped off with the best, like mocha latte frappe that you would ever want on top of your cappuccino.
I love it. So even whether it be television, music, books, everything will be elevated at a higher consciousness level.
I believe that we as a collective will only ask for that we are jonesing for it. And I don't even know if we're aware of how much we're jonesing for it, because a lot of us are discontented. And I don't know if the word's anxious, because it's not in that true form of anxiety. We're waiting with excitement, but discomfort. We are wanting very much to see everything transform into that paradisial reality that this was to be and will then become.
Are you hopeful about the future?
Yes, I believe that the timeline that I will be on will be spectacular. I'm waiting with bated breath. I've got the popcorn. I believe this is the best movie that we as a collective have ever made. I believe that all of creation is watching with their respective popcorn baskets or buckets, because this has never happened before here. It's happened in other realms where there's been an ascension process, but this might be a first in another way. Some people say, no, there are even lower vibration realities, but this one sure is darn low. It is the best movie ever made. And we're in it right now. And I am hopeful. I believe we are not forsaken. We are loved. And that everything is unfolding divinely.
You love words and you love the origin of words and the power of words. And I think words cast spells. Can we talk a little bit about what we take in, whether it's writing or reading or listening or seeing, affects us, our frequency and our vibration? Can you talk about the power of all these different types of mediums?
I was a linguistics major in college for a short time. We've got language fanatics on my side of the family, and we love wordplay. And so I take words very seriously, as do you. We've talked about that. And I believe that there's a lot of programming, even juxtaposition of consonants, words, paragraphs, the use of color in media, along with the words, the sounds, the music that might back the song, the paragraph, the symbols. It goes on and on. It has to do with being a curious cat, considering there's more going on behind the scenes. How does it make you feel? If you have difficulty being your own person and thinking for yourself, chances are you might slip right into, oh, well, whatever. And that's fine. There's no judgment. Every soul has free will choice regarding questioning the narrative. And this is a time to wake up. So words, yeah, they can cast spells. Does that mean that anyone who reads something is going to have a spell cast on them? No. A person who's more fearful has a greater chance of having something maybe attached to them or something come in. That's why the other side always says, work on your fears. Work on your fears. The less fearful you are, generally, the better off you are. Regarding TV, I haven't watched TV in almost 8 years. It's quite easy, actually. It's very freeing. And you don't get caught up in the latest trend. Look here, look there, look here. and you find that it's easier for you to think for yourself, make decisions for yourself without a higher social media outfit telling you what to think, say, and do.
I love that. It's like when the inside voice is louder than the outside voices. You've mastered your life.
Right on.
One of the ways that I've gotten to experience your healing is you came and did a gallery reading at my house, and we had about 15 to 18 people here. How can people access you?
You could contact me through my website, jonieswhitelighealing.com. I don't go to people's homes randomly. People who are word of mouth might see me in person. I offer Skype, Facebook video, FaceTime, Zoom if they give me a link, phone sessions. If people have a restaurant or they know of someone who has a restaurant where they have a side room where they could advertise the event and have like a prefix and Joanie during that time, where they could keep the rest of the restaurant open during that time, that I can offer. I love galleries. I do expos and festivals, interviews, as you know. I do live call-in with my friend Caroline in England. We're in our 8th year on Blog Talk Radio. It's called the UK-US Psychic Tag Team Connect Across the Pond. I do client appreciation days for companies that wish to entertain their employees, and that would look like either private readings set up or a gallery event. What is a psychic gallery? Where people are in a circle and I'm at the front, and everyone asks a question and I channel for them, and everyone hears the answer, and I call it spiritual group therapy. It is extremely powerful, and that also is something I totally get off on.
I love in the actual group gallery setting, one person's healing is everyone's healing. And there was even a participant, by the time it got to her, she's like, well, I kind of had an issue with everything everyone asked about. And now I'm like, let's add this one more thing in. And it's a really fun way to experience your healing, especially if someone's new to this experience. But your wonderful one-on-one readings, how do you structure your readings with people?
15 minutes, half hour, and 1 hour. It's that simple. I do want to add one thing regarding choosing someone who could mentor you, guide, medium, reader, healer, whatever the case. There are many folks that have put out shingles and they have not necessarily done their third dimensional work. I call that spiritual bypassing. That's a common term nowadays for folks that move into the woo, and they're still in need of raising that vibration to be that best guide for themselves first before other. And that if you find yourself with someone who says me and I a lot, whether it feels very multi-level marketing or Ponzi-ish, where they're saying, oh, but you need to now do this, you have to come back for that. If the price is exorbitant because they tell you that they found negative entities on you, and if they're telling you you must do this and this and this and this in order to, you might want to reconsider. There's a lot of ego involvement with quite a number of the ones that have that shingle. They might not be aware, and that's okay. It's for you to decide how you feel when you are with them. When I do readings and healings, when I do that guideship, spirit comes in and doesn't spoon feed. There aren't shoulds and musts. The only time I ever received a should or a must was a woman who was in such a violent, abusive, unsafe relationship that spirit came in and said, if you do not run to a shelter now, you will be murdered. And aside from that, I don't offer fear porn, nor do I offer must, shoulds, and have tos. And that sub piece, a practitioner, a spiritualist, and they're doing that doom and gloom, just erase and delete. We're not here to give death dates. We're not here to say, oh, of any kind. We're bridges. We're here to assist with transformation, elevation, enlightenment, validation, support, and guidance.
I love that. I thank you, Joanie. I wonder if we should do a little example of something. So right now I have this pain that's going down my right side on my right hip.
Yes.
Part of me says, oh, this is because, Priscilla, you haven't been doing your exercises or your stretches. And, is there something preventing me from taking better care of myself? Part of it is there something else that I'm not aware of that's happening on that right side?
And we've got a little bit of teachable moment here for those that are watching this. So I would be saying to the client beforehand, go see a doctor. It's for entertainment purposes only. Okay, so that's the first part. Then I would be asking you now, how long have you had right hip pain go down your leg?
It's not consistent, off and on, probably since I started working a desk job in early 2000s.
I'm going to go in. And for those that are listening, going in means I put my Joanie aside and I call in the highest of, and here we go. There's another lifetime. You were on a cargo ship and you would assist with the transportation of goods. The boat was rocky. I see bamboo and I see melons and I see there were several on board and there was a perch that you kind of stood and sat and you had to keep maintaining that there wasn't too much of a tip towards the center. You had to keep things kind of back. You kept arranging and you had no choice. This was your job. So the cargo didn't shift things around. Might you have a glass of water by you to sip or no?
Yes.
Have a sip. Have a sip. So I would be telling a client, if I'm getting that they're doing a healing, I might tell the client, as I just told Priscilla right now, have a sip. It helps flush negative energies through the physical body. And please, you'll be doing this today. That's called a should. It's a suggestion. And if she doesn't, she's not going to go, okay. So anyway, let's see what you were working on in that lifetime. Getting from here to there. What can I do based on things being arranged that will be fortuitous and satisfactory? Right? Let's see what karma you incur to self in that lifetime, getting you stuck where you end up with hip issues here, going in. No matter what I do, it's not possible to balance. It's impossible. I have no ability to balance things. Let's see what you say to other incurring karma to other. I was at the port. You dragged me on. You made me do this. You duped me. I thought this was going to be easy. Should we get rid of negative karma?
Please.
Here we go. Across time and space, forwards and backwards across all generations, that lifetime that would lead this soul here to have hip issues. And we ball them all up and you say inside, I forgive myself. So this was being pushed and pushing self. Feeling others are making you and you're making yourself. So you were put on that ship. It was rickety. They're calling it a ship. It could have been maybe an old ship, but not necessarily like the Queen Elizabeth. And that's what this pressure is. They pushed me on and now I have to do it. And now pressure, self-pressure. Next step, forgive everyone and everything. Ask for everyone and everything's forgiveness. This is a nicety. It offers the others to forgive you if they wish, and if they don't, it's okay. It's a nice gesture. So you can say that inside. Thank God for these life lessons. I believe we're all part of the oneness. Some people believe we're separate from. It's okay. Thank you. I get it. Let's see how the forgiveness work, all there, affects you in this incarnation here, moving forward with respect to hip. Right hip. There was a lot of combustion. And it's interesting, I saw plantain, I saw grape, and I saw all different types of fruit. And I feel that you were not feeling fruitful. It's interesting because those were melons. And I feel you were having difficulty with enzymes and digesting food. I feel that possibly, this is just a suggestion, I think it's called papain, that's papaya enzyme, could assist you. And also cucumbers might also assist. I feel you've had difficulty and that things were rolling around and you couldn't bring them in. And you were constantly in a rocking and rolling, being pushed and pushing yourself. A lot of jostling. I'm going to go back in and just see how this affects you moving forward. Getting up and walking around if you're sitting for more than 10 minutes. Arnica gel, if that pleases you every now and then. A bath, if you like Epsom salts. Mellow music. Healing. Your system is having a rework now. It's being reworked. There were dendrites in the nerve cell that were off. They would do a fire and then they would stop and then they would go back like a, but it wouldn't be a full hit to the next axon, I think. And it would just go, and then it would go, and then it go, instead of, it would do a little bit of a choke and then it would continue. I see that when it didn't go into the full head on, the neurotransmitters are just supposed to go straight through. That was the combustion, and that it would heat up, and you just had heat up, build up, heat up, combustion. Your fluids are okay. You have a duck at your pond or lake?
I have problems with geese.
You didn't have the power, it seems, to kind of remove a bunch of them. I think over time they'll leave and they'll find another one, but you were stuck, and I feel that they made their way there and they wanted to make residence, which maybe they have, but over time they will leave. You were very fiery and there was anger. Take at least a year, and then upon the return you might be putting something down, not to kill them, but something natural, and they might not like it, and then that will assist with their departure.
Joanie, you hit the nail on the head on so many of these things. So I've always had fruit digestion issues. I don't eat a lot of fruit. And someone had once said that I needed papaya seeds to clear some things out. And so thank you for that. And the geese thing is so real right now. I picked up 3 bucketfuls of poop in my front yard. So I'm trying to get them not to cross, to stay on that side of the pond. I'm okay with that. So I keep visualizing them on that side or up the hill. And yes, my husband he wants a gun. And I'm like, no, we can't have a gun energy in our house. And I got very upset about it this week. So yes, that makes sense of why this is happening, because I've been very upset for the last week about these geese, because I actually prayed for them to have safe births, and it's a cute little family. And I was honored that they chose my pond, and it's way better watching them than TV. So I'm trying to make peace with the geese. I'm trying to help my husband make peace with the geese, but also they can't come poop on the new patio and in the front yard. So
that's right. So you were having problems on that waterway in that other life, and therefore there was a takeover. And so there was a takeover of combustion in your hip. We could liken that to the geese. The geese overran your hip. So now you've done the balancing of the karma. So it'll be interesting to see how there's a clearing of that pond. I don't think it's going to be an overnight sensation. You might need to be putting something down. They use the word coordinates. So you could, over the next few months, be investigating natural ways to deter geese from settling.
We bought pinwheels. So we think like a scarecrow to just keep them on that side maybe will help. You could put some essential oils or some sprays down, but it would also deter my other birds. And I have 10 bird nests, finches and bluebirds. I don't want to affect them. And so that was my dilemma is I love birds. My grandmother loved birds. I'm here in this house because I love birds. They're everywhere. And I was having quite the little dilemma. And I did combust because I got so angry when they came in the yard. I chased them with a leaf blower, and then one of them kind of fell down the stairs, and then I felt so bad. I'm chasing the babies, and so I had a lot of guilt around that.
I hope this assisted.
Absolutely. Well, Joanie, is there any message that the guides have for us that they want us to close with today?
I believe that we're not forsaken. I had said that before. We are very loved. Everything's divinely ordered, even in the chaos of it all. Many of us pre-birth planned challenges in order to assist others. We are held in love as we are love. You had asked earlier, like, what do you recommend people do? Praying, trying their best to be in the now, looking into the future with wonderment, adventure, and curiosity, not hanging your hat on anything, but wishing, hoping, visualizing, and then adding, and if it is for my highest good and the highest good of all, may it be. So there's a reason why you are here. It is divine. You have meaning and purpose. There is a reason for everything. And if something doesn't feel right, you can remind yourself this too shall pass. So that's what I have to add.
Thank you so
Bless
much
you.
for sharing your healing light and love with everyone. I'm just so honored to know you not only as a healer, but as a friend. And thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for being here, for guiding people, assisting with your set of pipes, your opera set of pipes, and your divine knowledge that you bring in from this lifetime and all the others to assist others too with their awakening. Bless you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Harmonic Alignment. If something resonated with you, we would love to hear about it. Please consider leaving us a 5-star review and subscribing so you don't miss an upcoming episode. Thank you. The information contained in this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider. Carefully read all labels and directions. The products and information received through the podcast should not be used to replace a consultation or advice from your healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem or have any healthcare questions, please promptly call your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Dr. Larissa Sharapova and Priscilla Koblenz and the producers, are not responsible for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained in this podcast. This podcast may contain endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct financial benefit to the product or services referenced.